Morena, uncle.
Morena.
No hea koe, ko ai koe. Where are you from and who are you?
Uh, no matapi ko tēnei. Uh, ai ara, ko whare tai ki riki ana taku ingoa. Um, I'm born and bred here in Matapi. So,
Ka pai. Uncle, tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up in Matapihi.
growing up in Matapi, but thinking back, probably best describe it as I like to think of myself as an extension of my parents' arms. So they did a great job of raising the family we had. I'm the second youngest. Um, I can remember things way back before I started primary school, so quite vividly. Um, we had a very homestead type of lifestyle. Um, Dad's garden, well, our family garden, it wasn't just a vegetable garden. It was a 5 acre paddock. You know, we had potatoes, kumras, corn. Um, it was like a community garden nearly, because my dad's family was quite a large family. And come harvest time, all those who helped bring all the produce in got a share of what was reaped. So now our grandmother used to be the cover all that, who got what and where what went where. It was a great life growing up that way. Um, my biggest fear in those days was the kumara pit. I hated it. Oh, the, you could smell that funny smell in the kumara pit. But, uh, but you know, Dad would. We would spend a lot of time in our moana, in our waipu and across that Rangatawa Bay behind us. Um, Netting, spearing. My earliest recollection was my two older sisters swinging me between them, walking behind our dad a number of um, catching flounder. So that was before I started school. So yeah, you don't forget memories that stick to you like glue like that. And my two older brothers, um, well, Joe, he was really good at it as well. Um, uh, um, Mum was a very, what's the word? Put it this way, our grandmother was considered a matriarch of Marapi. Our mum was one in her own right. Um, she became a teacher's aide early in the years, not long after I started school actually. And she always strove to really put us through an education that, um, well, we took to it. We had to. Dad, he just toiled from sun up to sundown. That was typical of all the men in his family. Work from sun up to sundown. Um, and Mum took great care of the kids. As I said, we had our own garden. We had a bit of livestock here and there. pigs, hens. We used to share the cow with the uncle across the road, the milking and all, so on. We didn't have a tractor. We used to use two old Clydesdales to pull the old plough around. That was fun. Then you starting to get later on in life, I guess. All our siblings, we all headed our own ways. My sisters, Ngarita went to university and teachers training college. Hinga ended up in teachers training college. You'll have to interview your Auntie Katz. I can't remember where she. All I remember is all her friends. She had a lot of mates. Uncle Joe, well, you can interview him. He'll have his own story. And of course, Uncle Pinataka, the eldest, he had a really high-profile job in the banking industry. Of course, we had Hinga. She was the second eldest, and she passed away in '62 from well, they call it a brain hemorrhage, but I think it's, what's the other thing they call it? Aneurysm, yeah. She was only 14 at the time. That was a great loss because she was my favourite sister growing up at that age. Not only that, I was taken by my grandmother when I was a baby from my real family and raised where I am now. So, and it's been a great, no problem. Some say it was a bit of a charmed life, but then I got twice the hidings as well. So it was good. Mum and Dad did everything they could for us, and the aroa from our parents was, what do they call it? It was there. There was no needing to look for it. It was always there. So yeah, we were very lucky in that sense, having the parents we did. You might have to ask me some more definite questions.
Thinking about the homestead and Koro having a large marakai, where was this homestead? Where was the marakai?
Where was the
homestead in the marakai? Where did you live?
The actual position?
Along in Matapihi, where was it?
Oh, it's if you take the full length of Matapihi Road, which is it's nearly 6 k's, I think. We would be about a third of the way in, maybe, the homestead.
Where the homestead is now? Okay,
Yeah.
183?
183, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So the marakai was where our avocado orchard is?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, well, where the orchard is now is approximately just under 10 acres, I think. Well, half of that was our garden, was 5 acres. So.
And did you each have roles to play in preparing the mara?
No, the kids just did what they were told to, so that was their role. But our grandmother, she was great at come sit here and put these over there. And meaning all those lumpy potatoes with little gnarly things on them, you put them out there. That was an all-day job with her. Or we'd spend a day on the tide with the nets, and we'd come back with, I remember, just boatfuls of fish. And I would spend the next whole day with a grandmother hanging all the fish up to papara and chasing all the flies away.
What types of fish did you catch?
Oh, all sorts. Snapper, trevally, herrings, kahawai, mullet. Actually, there was some species of fish I haven't seen. I don't know what they were called, but we don't see them anymore. I only saw them when I was little. They had a funny snout on them. They almost looked like elephants, eh? Elephant snout. But what else was there? Of course, patiki, plenty of that. Mackerel. What fish we did get, there was just a lot of it when we were way back then. So, and as I said, Dad came from a large family, and it was always all shared out. So.
And where would you go where would you go fishing? What areas of Mati?
On days like that, we would be over at Tuarua Matua. So, when we were using nets. In Waipu, the water came in and flushed all the way out. There was it was a bit hard work trying to use a net down this side. Different fish too. The patiki on this side are different to the ones on that side. These ones on at Waipu were much bigger and had a slightly different colour. They were green more than black. So.
Was Waipu always this shallow?
Yeah. Yeah. And over the years, the fishing has actually gone downhill. So you don't see the patiki like you used to. Even the bird life has changed. Our native matuku, they disappeared from here when I was still going to primary school. So they were quite an awesome bird to watch in what's that? Raupo, the raupo tree. Yeah, they're sticking up there with their beak stuck up in the air, looking like a stalk.
Shellfish, Uncle?
Yeah, that's diminished somewhat. Titiko was always plentiful, but not so much now. Pipi and tuangi. The tuangi were very small. Unless you went right out, there were places out there, because you had to know where to go. They were very good sized tuangis, quite big. But we were reluctant to go out there in the daytime because all the population of Tauranga could see us when we went right out to get those. So we didn't go out there in the daytime. We got them at night when we were out floundering. When they did the new causeway over there for the toll bridge. That changed the tidal flow of the channels in Waipu, and all those shellfish beds, they all moved. So we still haven't been able to pick up where the pippies went to. There's beautiful pippies down there. Nice big flat ones. But the big tuangas I was talking about, they're still there. But they've moved closer to the edge of the main channel of Tauranga, on the Tauranga side. So, we don't go down there at all. And saying that too, with the bridge there, a lot of oysters grow around there now. So, and good oysters too. Yeah. We still get a lot of poo-poo around by the rero bridge, around that side of the beach, around that way. So there's still a bit of kai out there, but certainly not like it used to be, especially with the fish.
Were you, what was it like before the Maungatapu, Matapihi Maungatapu Bridge was built?
There was always a single lane bridge that I could remember, both going across Maungatapu and then from Hairene over to Tuarua Road on the other side. And they got changed in the early 60s to a two-lane bridge.
But it was a place where you would collect and fish and collect kaimoana?
Oh yeah. No, it was very plentiful back in those days. Yeah. Kingfish. As I said, mullet, kahawai, kingfish, they were all plentiful during the summer months. Because the mullet got better as it went into the autumn. Parore was better in the spring. Herrings. The herrings we used to get down here were nearly as big as the mullet. They were huge. But they were winter time. The freeze of them, and you're better off getting those. Those water was really cold to get when they came in. You came across the odd stingray back then, but not that often. But now, stingray everywhere. So they thrive on the, what do they call them? The heavy metals they get washed into the harbour. The spraying and all that. I read somewhere they actually thrive on it. They can exist quite happily in that kind of environment. I also read somewhere that killer whales were getting sick from eating them, and that's what it was. The heavy metals that they were digesting, I guess. That was a couple of years ago I read that. But stingray have certainly overtaken where the Pātiki used to sit. There's a lot of them down there. Not dangerous by any means. You can walk quietly through the stingray down there as long as there's high tide. Don't go down there at low tide. They don't like it when there's not much water and they're stuck.
Do you think the kaimoana and the fish species can ever be replenished or can ever return? Would ever be able to return?
Yeah, not in my lifetime. Too much damage is done. On the land, that's where it starts. You change on the land, you change on the sea. So, One of the biggest problems is the disappearance of all our swamps. And that's what filtered all the dirty water that went into the harbour, into the sea. So you won't find many swamps here in Matapi anymore. So, not like it used to be.
The swamps and the wetlands, were they all around Matapi?
Yeah.
In Whangarei?
Yeah, there was some pretty good swamps back in the day. It was hard work getting out to Waipu because you had to walk through all the swamps. Even down here below here, it was actually dangerous to walk out there. You had to go around the swamp. To go through the middle of it, you could get quite disorientated and end up going around in circles. There was that much of it, particularly when you're a kid, you know. So, this whole paddock down the bottom here used to be all soggy, just from the swamp which was just out from it. So, and it stretched right from that creek over there, right around the corner here. It was all swamp. And it went all the way up the coastline up here. It's all swampy all along there.
So it acts as a filter?
Yeah.
And was there tuna and kai in the swamps?
Yeah, there were. The Matapi's renowned for its water. And back in those days, even when I was a kid, there were still some houses that had part dirt floors in the homes, and they were still using their springs. And my grandmother, she had a home over here. She had two, one for food and one for watering. So, but the water was extremely clean back in those days, and Matapi was renowned for its clean springs right around. But now with the orchards going on, I don't think it's drinkable anymore. Because all the sprays and everything have really got into our water table. So just as well we're on town supply. So that's the that's what happens with modernisation or technology. Yeah, we lose what was extremely cherished for something else. You know. Dollars and cents, what it turns out to. God, there's a big gap in there. Too much to think about.
I remember when Koro would go floundering down in Waipu, spearing. Did he teach you?
Oh yeah. He only had one lesson with Koro. and then you had to work it out after that. He's one thing about Waipu anyway, it was, you could be good at it anywhere, but down, being a local, knowing where to go and when to go was the biggest advantage. So many guys went down there and didn't do any good. And they still do that now, they don't do any good. I only tell my partner, my nephews, probably a bit mean. But something koro taught us, when and where. And it shifts, changes. So,
Was he patient, or what was he like to learn from?
yeah, that's a hard one. He was a patient man, but he was also quite abrupt. Well, you'd remember that, wouldn't you? You know, till it came to his mokopuna, of course. He had all the patience in the world, as all grandparents do. So, he if we went out floundering and it was wrong, time was wrong, there were places we would go to first. There was nothing there, we'd turn around and go home. So, and it worked every time. Now, Uncle Joe, he was too stubborn, he'd carry on. As you can imagine. He'd come back swearing and cursing. So, yeah, that was another good thing about knowing when and where. You started with these couple of places that there should always be some there. And if there weren't any, you knew that, oh, it's no good. So you turned around and went home. But as I say, to go past the swamp, then walk that distance at a low tide, um, it was a hard thing to get to the water and then turn around and go back. That's where Uncle Jojo had no patience. So,
When you caught your pātiki or your kaimoana and you brought it home, you gave it out to other whānau. Did you distribute it to other whānau?
If there was plenty, yeah. Yeah, no, Mum normally sort of did, Mum and Dad. We'll keep this much and give those ones to such and such. Or we just kept the whole lot. So.
You talked about how our kuia used to preserve the flounder. So was there a drying method?
Oh, but papara. Papara, yeah. It's a dry, yeah. You split them open and just hang them up. I like them better when they got a light dab of salt on them. They're a bit tastier then. So.
Where would you hang them? Clothesline?
On the clothesline.
On the clothesline.
Not one of those wheelie ones with the wire that way, that way.
And were they the smaller ones or the bigger ones or the
Well,
medium-sized?
we didn't so much papara the patiki, but the bigger fish like the trevally and the kahawai, especially the trevally was the favourite to papara, and the snapper. So, and I know Granny had, those were her favourite to papara. So,
And then how would you eat it?
straight off the line.
Just dry.
That or steam them with the potatoes.
Yeah.
But they're quite easy to eat dry too. So. Tuna was another one, papara, but that's if you could wait that long.
Bye, Uncle. What are this is my last question. What are your hopes and aspirations, or what are your hopes for Waipu and Rangatawa and our taiao, our environment?
Oh, I really wish some kind of project would go into bringing our swamps back. I really do. So it'd make the whole bay healthier again. Even the titiko, you have to be careful looking at those because they don't get flushed out properly, and they could be quite dangerous eating them. There were at one stage you couldn't eat them. But that would probably be my biggest hope for Waipu and around the Rangatawa Bay there, that our project goes into bringing our swamps back. The roading had a lot to do with that too. It cut off the water going back into the harbour. So it got accumulated and they drained it out. That didn't do it any good. Yep, that would do it.
Okay, Uncle.
You didn't tell me about this bit. That. And I was meant to get a... I might...
Thank you, Uncle. Thanks.